Relationship.
Relationship. When we think about networking, we think about relationship. Very good. What about this? Go.
Communication.
Utilization of the
Utilization.
utilize your network. The center of influence.
Utilize.
Yeah, utilize.
Like who there?
Connect.
Connection.
You see already.
You know.
Communication.
Communication.
Same.
No, now you say interest.
Interest or hobby? Interest. Hobby. Hobby or interest?
Hobby or interest?
You say building relationship.
Building relationship.
What relationship is that?
Okay. Anything on that?
Gaining information.
Gaining information.
Same.
So you're talking about an exchange. Whatever the exchange will be. Okay?
Sources.
Resources. Again me. Kendrick. Okay. These are, if you look at it, are outcome of networking. So what is networking? Whenever we talk about a definition, it's always talking about the process. So if I look at a definition, I will immediately know what I'm supposed to do. So what is networking? It is an active, a systematic process. It is a tool. It's organized. It's purposeful. It is strategic. For what? For three things we have to do. We must first build, and that's what many of you here talk about, building relationship. You must, after you build, building is the easiest. Today we have collected so many names, got so many telephone numbers. When you go back, you're going to throw away these people. Because you don't bother to maintain. So you need to build, you need to maintain, and then only can you use, the way they put here the word utilize your network, only then you can use your network. So it is this word that always gets me into trouble. So if I have a way of saying this, I could change the word to tapping your network. But where I come from, I trust you are mature enough to handle this. That yes, at the end of the day, when I maintain the relationship, I will be very, very comfortable to call him for help. I'm very comfortable to be able to use that relationship. This is something, but if you don't manage your relationship, if you call up the fellow, probably make a face, but you cannot see, right? So if I think about it, everything I look at definition, even as I teach entrepreneurial process, and as I have RMIT programs, I always tell my students, at any junction when you talk about definition, you must be able to define it with a process. Otherwise, it's not a definition in my mind. Okay? So it's important. So straight away, when I look at it, I know what it is. So I'm going to share with you some stories now. And I'm going to use these stories to actually capture the essence to further define what networking is all about. So with each story I tell, I will give you a takeaway. Making the most of your connections. I talk about my first job. I joined the bank when I first started working. And I will tell you, at that point of time, I thought that was a dream job I wanted. But if I look back at the many years, I realized that it was the job my mother wanted for me. Because every time when I go to the bank, my mother makes sure I save money. So every month, when they give me the pocket money, no matter a few bucks or whatever, my mother would take me with this passbook and then always take me to the bank so that I can deposit the money. And every time I'm in the bank, she would say this, this is the job you must do. This is the place you must work. So imagine, it started when I was a kid. She kept on, join the bank, join the bank, join the bank. Imagine, so I don't know how many years, I think 11 years, join the bank, oh my God. So the first thing when I graduated, I naturally gravitated to joining the bank. But in those years, in the 70s, to join the bank, there are only two direct paths. The rest are very hard to get in. Okay? The two direct paths will be your father is a client of the bank. That means your father must be very rich. Huh? So what it does is your father will call. Hey, hi, my daughter is going to graduate soon, And then, hey, by the way, my $5 million in the bank account going to be due soon. Then the bank manager know what to do. So many people, when I subsequently joined the bank, I found out that many of them have very influential parents. And that is why they are in the bank. The other way to get to the bank is you are a scholar. And I'm going to tell you, I'm neither. I don't have rich parents. I'm certainly not the academically smart parent that one have all the A's, I hope I'm not that capital yet. So obviously the route for me to do is like everybody else to apply for the bank job. But I had a powerful connection. My auntie was the washer lady for the CEO of the bank. And all she did was, hey, boss, my niece is graduating soon. She's looking for a job in the bank. And all he said was, tomorrow start work. So, I asked my auntie, do you hear it right? What do you mean start work? I haven't applied the job, No, tomorrow start work. My boss said, oh, the boss said, so the next day, I dress, go to work. So I went there. And that's when I start filling the application form. They said, can you please now write a CV? Okay, write my CV. Put a cover letter, and I started working. I was never interviewed. So what is networking? The first rule is it can be anybody. While working in the bank for many years later, the bank, we had what we call an economic crisis. So from the job of a credit person, I was then moved into back room to do receivables management. A very nice work, but actually collecting debts. So obviously, one of the things we need to do is recover all the bad loans or the slow paymaster. Otherwise, the bank's going to collapse if we don't do that. So I was doing this job. And I will tell you, the best network I had to be able to do those collections is the driver, who tells you where he drove his boss to, and the secretary who said, oh, my boss actually went to the golf course. So I would take my car, go to the golf course, and sit there at the reception, waiting, and then I don't go and collect money from him. I say, hey, hi boss, and that's it, I do. I go there for a few times, hi boss, then he knows what I'm doing, unless I wear a bill collector t-shirt, but I couldn't. So sometimes in life you find it very interesting that people who will help you can be anybody. So in terms of that, please don't go and rank your network based on, wow, very rich, it's not necessarily the case. The people who are connected to the rich, you'll be surprised who are they. Okay, so this is the rule number one. My first promotion. One thing about my working style, all these stories I tell after I learned all this. I never knew it while I was doing it. My working style has been always this. I think if my customer was to come to me and then he wants or she wants a facility, I will have this philosophy that, wow, this is really a bankable deal. But everything about the document doesn't help me to have an easy flow with the application. So I always preempt the situation of, instead of writing the facility up or writing the report up, I always call my boss first. And I'm always having this discussion. Hey boss, today I met this customer, he has been in operations for the last 20 years. But I was looking at the accounts, it really looks terrible. But I have made this reference check, and I think this is a bankable deal. Then my boss will say, okay, given this scenario, make sure you get this, you get this, you get this, you get this. As a collateral, whatever he tells me. So I'll go back to the customer, I say, in order for me to facilitate and help you with the proposal, would you consider this. So I actually do everything before I submit it. So the moment the proposal reaches my boss room, then my boss will be looking at it, oh yeah, I talked to me about this and that. All she does is The 4 things he tell me, he's going to look at whether I fulfill it, and that's it. And then I get my road trip. I have hardly any problem. So I get along with him very well, but I don't do a lot of casual talk. It's mainly business. But one day I hear him sigh on the phone, and I say, yeah, boss, what's wrong? Oh, we are going to expand. And then we are actually looking at starting a branch in Kuching. And I can't find anybody to help me start a branch. Then very candidly, I said this out of, I don't know why I said it, I said, boss, in that case, if you really cannot find anybody, just for a couple of months, I don't mind helping you. And I just said that. So 3 months later, Ayat, pack your bag and go to Kuching. Huh? Why? I thought you told me you were willing to go. Did I say that? I totally forgot, of course, because it was just a conversation. It wasn't an interview or whatever. So what to do? Because the boss said that, so I carry my bag. And I will tell you in reality, in real life, when you get an assignment like this, they say 3 months is never 3 months. Because nothing flows smoothly. Well, you make sure the license are there, make sure the renovation is there, you make sure you interview people, you make sure you train. By the time you train, it took me more than, I think, 6 to 7 months. And finally, when everything was done, my boss said, okay, Ayat, now you can come back. Then she says, I'm sorry, but you cannot go back to Johor Bahru. That was where I come from, the branch I was managing. I said, excuse me, what do you say? Cannot go back to JB? I said, why? I vacated a job, helped my boss, obviously wanting to come back to Johor Bahru to continue. Oh, the guy who took over your job is doing such a great job. You don't have to go back. Whoosh. Can you please fly to Kuala Lumpur tomorrow and we will have a discussion? Oh my goodness. So I went back to KL during the session, and then we're talking, and then all the MD and all the bosses were there, and he says, yeah, we're going to promote you to head the branches. So I was then 28 years old. I was probably the youngest head ever in the history of the bank at that point in time. And I was like, oh, the heart was beating very fast. I don't think I can do this job. I mean, who am I to do it? So obviously I say stupid things like that. Then my boss said, hey, nobody is ready for anything. But if we see that you're ready, we will train you to be ready. Oh, yes, boss. And the reason why is because they promoted my boss. And there was a vacancy of my boss position. And my boss recommended me. And I will tell you why it was so easy for me to get promoted. I became visible. Because every time they had a progress meeting, with regard to what happened to Kuching, oh, Ayat did this, Ayat said this, Ayat did this. So Go Ayat's name is like all the time in their head. So people who didn't know me at the board level also hear, Go Ayat this, Ayat this, Ayat that. So when they said they recommended Ayat to be promoted, the first thing they say, sure. So what is networking? Networking is about visibility. Networking is about contribution. You have to make sure you do it first. Obviously, when I did it, I didn't think I was going to get a promotion. I did it because I was thinking I was going to help my boss. I also didn't think that my boss would be promoted so quickly. Because in those years when you work, people get promoted when the boss dies, They never leave the job. Not like people today, everybody leave the job so easily. But today, last time it was not like that. So where you think you get promoted, right? So that's the first thing you need to understand. So making the most, when I say most, I'm not talking about it in a negative way. Where I'm coming from, it is about capitalizing the opportunities around you. Creating new connections. I'm going to share with you my first $20 million deal. In the 1980s, you want to get a $20 million deal, your boss gave it to you. Don't dream about getting a deal yourself. Okay? So one of the things, I always have this philosophy, and I'm telling you this story, there's also a lot of learning, where I mentioned just now that everything we do, we must make sure we cover our salary. So I'm very clear that my contribution must be beyond that. And all of us are given a budget, a target, which is going to be what you're going to do when you're going out to work. Now, even though some of you may be doing backroom, today HR has a way of measuring you as a cost. Okay? So you need to contribute beyond your salary. So now the measurement is 4 times. So if my salary is 100,000, my profit contribution is 400,000. They always talk about 4 times our contribution. So I remember at that point of time, one of the things I mentioned to you is I need to make sure I meet the target. So I have what we call bread and butter. But I always like the fact that if I can get a bonus, I will get more, literally financially more bonus. But of course, last time our bonus 4 months, we were very happy. No, today is based on commission structure. I think if I had been based on commission structure, I'd be filthy rich. But the world wasn't like that before. Okay, so I've always been like working very hard, and then sometimes, of course, the bonus may not be so big. Sometimes I get a very big deal, but not what this deal I'm talking about. So to get bread and butter business, the strategy is always to make sure you are financing people who are going to acquire an asset immediately. You can't be going and visit the company all the time when people are not acquiring assets. So you'll be just going there for meeting, don't have meeting, go on. So you waste a lot of time. Not that it's bad, but it doesn't give you the bread and butter income. So I go to this place which sells Volvo chassis, which is the body that carries all the trawlers. It means at the back you can have to carry timber or haulage, to carry petrol, the petrol tanks, around. So I always like to finance those branded chassis. So obviously, Volvo was one of the chassis that I identified that I would like to do. So I always go to the office. So what we do is I go there maybe twice a week. And the reason why in business is very strange, out of sight, out of mind. Very strange. So many people will be competing for the same business. So if you happen to be standing there and the client happen to close the deal there, you are standing right there to get the deal. So you have to be there most of the time. So this is what I do. I go there twice a week. Just within this, maybe from 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and I hang around there and go to somewhere else. So I'm always hanging around there. And then one day the financial controller came down. And I went to the sales office. And then they say, hey, Ayat, you have not met our controller, right? So I say, hey, hi. And then I shook hands with her. And within that probably 5 minutes or so, again, I don't know how to explain it to you. But there are some people that, so with her, it was like, straight away. Immediately I connected with her. And then she said to me, hey, if you come here so often, why don't you come out for coffee once in a while? Now listen very carefully. When someone is talking to you, and when someone leaves you a parting message, please take it seriously. It's not for fun. So I take all these statements very seriously. So when you go for a career talk, and when someone says, please stay in touch, you better do it. Because they already see something that they want from you. That they probably think that if you connect and continue to do that, potentially they want to employ you. Are you with me? So don't make all these statements like they don't simply say things like that unless they feel, wow, this is what I want. So if someone gives you a parting statement, listen to all these parting statements very carefully. So similarly, that's what she said. So what I did was, every month that I go, every week and then I don't go and give her coffee again. Crazy. People don't have the kind of free time to go. But every month, I make it a point. Her office is on the 4th floor. I will go to the cafeteria, which is on the 3rd floor, and I go there, I buy a cup of coffee, and I don't drink coffee. So I take a glass of water, or sometimes I get a juice, and then I walk up to a room, and then I will be sitting there, hey, hi, coffee time, giving you a break. And then we start talking. Now she loves to talk about kids. And I tell you, I love to talk about kids too. I always thought that I was going to start a school to teach mothers how to teach children. That was my dream job. But of course I didn't do that, obviously, for obvious reasons. Okay? So anyway, that was what I loved. So I read any book and every book I could get my hands on about raising kids. So when we talk about that, I said, oh yeah, I was fascinated. Then I'll tell her all the exercises people do because I've been watching the documentary for the longest time. And I was fascinated at how the brain cell grows to the age of 5 years old. Beyond 5 years old, our brain cells doesn't grow. So for people who are actually talking about getting married, the development of the child is the first 5 years, most critical stage of the child's development. So we're talking, so I can talk. She loves talking about it. So sometimes I buy her the books, and I sure send her, I go and take a look at it, magazines and cut articles for her. And that's what I do once a month. Then one day she called me up. Yeah, I need a favor. Thinking, what, the controller need a favor from you. Can you help me do a discounted cash flow? Now listen very carefully. I'm damn good in discounted cash flow. Very good in DCF. And the DCF was to do this, to do comparison between buying an equipment using leasing, which has to take into consideration the tax structure and income tax guidelines, and then all to take a term loan versus paying by cash. So I have to do a comparison of 3. Now I'm going to remind you, it was in the 80s, which means no computer. Hello? No Excel spreadsheet. So I have to do it manually. And at that point of time, there's no such thing as HP 12C either. So what I did was, there's this Bible which we use in the Bible. Actually, I have a book of it. Next time when I ever come to class, I must bring one copy. It is so thick. It's called an annuity table. That annuity table is by the fraction of 0.025. And that means I tell you, you faint when you look at the table. And I tell you, I was so good at it. And therefore, I go home, I said, okay, sure, no problem. After all, she asked me a favor. Except that the term is talking about 20 years. So I cannot do 20 years, one shot. I have to do quarterly, and then means 20 times 4. So you can imagine how my spreadsheet went, right? It was like a scroll, because there's no way of doing it. And I did it up to 3 a.m. So the next morning, so excited, masterpiece, because I'm always very proud of doing it. So I go and give it to her. And then when I reach her office, she said, I think I need to change the perimeters. I think I nearly fell off the chair. Excuse me, what perimeter you want to change? And then she gave me these 2 or 3 changes. Oh my God. And she says, you think you can help me? So I said, I'm sorry, during daytime, I got a couple of appointments today. Maybe tomorrow morning I'll bring her. I did it again up to 3 a.m. It was so, I tell you, literally manually doing it. And then I think throughout the 3-4 months, I changed it 5 times. It was mind-boggling. After I saw her, so I scared to go and see her. I was scared to bring coffee. Scared. But anyways, many months later, I think almost a year later, she called me up. Ayat, remember the discounted cash flow you did? Oh my God, if I have the phone, excuse me, shit, not again. Yes. Would you be interested to do this $20 million deal? I tell you, I almost dropped the phone, I said, sure, of course you must be calm. But the heartbeat was very fast. Sure. I said, can I come to your office now? Sure. Oh, so we want to drive a car like speaker, sport car. Oh, literally driving a sport car. Of course, small engine type. Oh, rushing all the way there, reach there already. Then I said, come down, cool. Then I walk in, very cool. And then we started talking about the deal. And then she says, well, I'm going to give you this deal subject to this condition. People don't give you things for fun, So she put the competitor's code on the table. Now, this is what I have gathered, and this is the one that gives us the best deal. All you need to do is to match this deal. When I looked at the deal, I almost fell off the chair because the margin was absolutely thin. So I said, I'm not in a position to do this. Can I just make one phone call? So I called, I told my boss. Then my boss said, sure, we will do this. So I put the phone down. I'm very happy. Volvo, who don't want to do, man? So I said, sure. So I said, okay, in principle, we would like to take this deal. Then she said, Ayat, the deal is yours. I said, good, let's shake hands. So I shook hands with her, and then I walk out. Still very calm. If she had a camera outside, she would see a mad woman. I tell you, I don't know how I was behaving. I was like, oh my God, I was so excited. We were jumping up and down. It was crazy, So what is networking? It's about sharing your competence. You have to find something you are so damn good at. I don't know what it is, but you've got to find it. If you're very good in developing websites, and if someone that you have met, who is someone very senior, and happen to have a club that he manages, and asking you, I said, oh, I was looking, and if you can do it, please by all means do it. I don't know what it is, but you need to find the angle where you're coming from with regard to this. So think about what that competence is. If you are a very good photographer, you'll probably say, oh, your company function, I will think, I do anything. I'm going to tell you this story. There was this friend of mine, a very close friend. I actually brought this friend to have a chat with her when we run the analyst training program. We actually run a simulated internship program in SIM. Most students probably can't get an analyst job on their own or get an internship as an analyst. So we run every year, sometime in June after the exams, and then we run 30 days, you come and you literally work like an analyst. So we do that. And this friend of mine was telling me this story. I brought her to, she's in private banking, and then she was telling the student, and she was just telling me this story. Many people who want to join private banking, you can't get into private banking straight away. You'll probably start with what we call an MA position, which is called management associates. And to get into management associate is also very, very difficult to get in. Some of the management associates drive Porsche one. It means the parents are very welcoming. Okay, so we are there, and then they actually do what we call the one-leg kick-off for the private banker. So they do the execution, they do the trades, they do all the settlement, they do everything that like a PA kind of work. They do everything what they're learning, and from there, hopefully, they will be promoted into a junior RM, relationship manager for private banking. That's what they do start. So this guy has been eyeing for that position for the longest time. But there's so many MAs, and every MA is also efficient one. So it's very hard to determine. So when the boss got married, he offered to become the photographer. And the boss said, no, I employed already somebody. So never mind, since this is also my hobby, why don't I come and take it for? So the boss said, okay, you come for my engagement. So the registration, so registrar. So he went and did the photograph. And I tell you, everybody was bowled over because he was really a very good photographer. And my goodness, the photographs he took, my friends were showing me, wow, awesome photographs. And suddenly, boom, nothing to do with banking. From an interest that he has, he suddenly became visible. Guess what? He's now a junior RM. So somehow or the other, what I'm trying to highlight is, I don't know what it is for you, but you need to think about it. And this is what I always call the Google model. And in fact, many of my classes, I will share with the participants the 50 most innovative companies in the world. And when I say this, Google do this extremely well because they allow every employee to spend 20% of their free time to do what they really are competent in. So you're very good in maths. When you're free, you do maths. When you're free, you love cooking, you can do cooking. It doesn't matter. That is why it is like a search engine that does everything. So today, you ask me, what is Google's business? You cannot tell. They want to make cars, they make glasses, they make cars. But you name it, they are in it because they're extremely talented people who work there who can do anything and everything because of the passion. And this is what I am talking about. The ability to share whatever passion you have. And you must let people know what it is that you have. Okay? Now, I'm going to share with you my first step into business. First in the world, in the business world. I decided to leave the bank, and you know what's the irony of bankers? You learn a little of everything, but not enough to do anything. We have skill set to sell, skill set to do this, skill set to analyze it, but actually you can't start anything. Obviously you can't start a bank, that's for sure. So after a while I was like, wow, so what the end, many of my friends said, hey, I become an insurance agent now. Huh? But what to do? You must explore, right? So I also sit like insurance exam, sit for insurance talk, go for all these classes. I also did that. Then I've gone to all kinds of things. People say go direct marketing, multi-level marketing. I also attend that multi-level marketing, go and do all these kind of things. And my client, the one that I told you that under the cherry tree, he was one of the first people I actually called. And he asked me, Ayat, why don't you come and work for me? And run this factory for me, and I'm going to make it to you. She literally uses this word. I said, what do you mean? Factory manager can become filthy rich. I'm going to get my company listed, and it's going to be when. If you come and work during this period of time, if you can do this, I'm going to give you X number of shares, and you'll be filthy rich. So obviously, what a tempting offer, right? So I remember when I was working in the bank, every Saturday I would go to the factory. After 3 months, I said, I'm sorry, I cannot do this. I don't see myself running factory. Really don't see it. And the kind of people that they manage, I actually find I don't have the capability nor the capacity to be able to do it. So I told you, I think better become friends. Then at least don't tarnish my reputation with you. So I said, thank you for making me a millionaire. I said, thank you, but I think I cannot accept $1 billion. Very, very hard. So I didn't take it. And one day, my friend called me up. Hey, Ayat, I want you to meet this guru of training. You, I didn't know a guru of training one, no. Okay? So I said, what do you mean guru? I want you to meet this guy. He's been training for many, many years. He's been moonlighting for years. He's very, very reputable. People know him very well, but he's still working in the bank. His bosses allow him to moonlight. So anyway, so I said, okay, sure. So we had lunch. I still remember the first lunch meeting was eating fish head curry. And another thing I learned about networking, whatever you do, don't eat fish head curry. It's really very hard to have a conversation, trying to pick the bones everywhere. Oh, don't do that. But anyway, since it was a very casual thing, so we met and I sat there, and he asked me, so would you want to start a training business? And I'm thinking, I said, I don't think so I can do this because I'm totally not a trainer. I've been in banking for many years. I don't think training is really my cup of tea. But then he says, I can train you. I need someone to do marketing, and the years in the bank that I have, I actually do a lot of relationship building job. Okay, after I got out the analysis. So discussed for a while. Then candidly I said yes. Anyway, I went back to the office. Then my phone rang, and I picked up the phone. And then he said to me, "Would you consider it seriously?" Then I said, "Can you give me 3 months to think about it?" So I put the phone down. The problem at that point of time, I had to unwind my positions. I have a lot of investments. Some of them are not doing well. I mean, bankers tell you they do well, all bullshit one. They go and figure and put a finger on everything, but actually nothing works one. Okay, we all talk we are very clever, but actually we are not. Okay, so we are not the best investors actually. So I had to unwind some positions, and I was thinking, if I'm going to really start this, I must make sure I have zero liability. So I sold my house, I sold the car I love, I sold everything, zero rights. And then I had enough money to last me for, I think, about 3 years. And then with that, I decided to buy a small little car just to commute. So I thought, that's it. My father offered to ask me to go home to stay with him. So I went back to stay with my dad. And then that's how I started continuing it. So I went and started doing that. And so I said, okay, after unwinding, I think I'm ready. So I called him, okay, excuse me, hi, so-and-so. I don't know him, just met in a coffee shop. Okay, I'm ready to start a business with you now. That was 19 years ago. I started with a business with a man I met in a coffee shop.